It's that time of the week when former football and sports stars share their stories, plus the Next Man Up segment featuring news and notes from around the world of Major League Football. It happens all right here, right now, on Thursday Night Tailgate, with your hosts, Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari. Guys, enjoy the guests. Have some fun. Take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us again this week on Thursday Night Tailgate, home of the NFL Alumni Association and the Gridiron Greats. TNT is brought to you by the great folks over at Kyvan Foods, Coastal Orthopedics, the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory, and all our wonderful friends over at the French Lick Resort. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and I guess it was actually a couple of weeks ago now at this point, but Bob Lazzari and I started out, we were in a New York state of mind, and tonight we're in a Minnesota state of mind. We've got 5 great guests that we're looking forward to sharing with you. 2 of them are some of the best players to ever come out of the University of Minnesota. Got my Minnesota Golden Gophers t-shirt on in honor of those guys tonight. First up, we're going to have former Golden Gophers quarterback and really a Golden Gophers legend, Rickey Foggie, is going to be back with us. Rickey is a great friend of the show. We'll talk to Rickey, get his thoughts on his alma mater, what's going on with his current high school coaching situation. And after seeing guys like Brock Osweiler sign a contract worth $72 million, does Rickey wish he had come along about 25 years later? We'll find out when he joins us here about 15 minutes from now. Following him, former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins will join us in his regular weekly time slot. We've got OTAs going on this week. We'll talk to Tony about his memories of those days. And did guys come to camp back then in outstanding shape like we see so many guys today, or were OTAs in training camp the time that guys got themselves back into shape? Well, we'll talk to Tony about that and a whole lot more here at the bottom of the half hour. Following Tony, former Browns and Ravens wide receiver Michael Jackson will be making his TNT debut with us. Michael played his college ball at Southern Miss. He was a quarterback coming out of high school, but when he got to Southern Miss, they had this kid by the name of Brett Favre playing quarterback. So we'll talk to Michael about his time at Southern Miss. He was also there in Cleveland when the Browns packed up and headed to Baltimore. So we'll talk about what that was like for he and his teammates and a whole lot more when he joins us later in this hour. We'll kick off hour number 2 with the second of our great University of Minnesota legends, and that's Rick Upchurch. Rick was a Pro Bowl wide receiver and kick returner for the Denver Broncos back in the mid-70s and early 80s. In fact, no one, I don't think, was a better kick returner during that time as his 4 Pro Bowl selections over those years would suggest to you. In fact, in 1976, Rick returned 4 punts for touchdowns, 2 against Cleveland and 1 against San Diego in back-to-back weeks. We'll talk about that, his induction into the Broncos Ring of Honor, and a lot more when he joins us a little bit later in this hour. And then we'll round out the show with one of our favorite guests that we've had the privilege of getting to know really well here on Thursday Night Tailgate, and that's former Dolphins and Bengals Pro Bowl tackle Richmond Webb. So we've really appreciated the opportunity to get to know Richmond over the years. Been a great supporter of the show. We'll get his thoughts on the Dolphins' top pick, Ole Miss tackle Laremy Tunsil, and then also Jerome, Bushrod, who the Dolphins have brought over as a free agent from the Chicago Bears, reuniting him with their new head coach, Scott Gase, who was the Bears offensive coordinator last season. But they're going to look at moving Bushrod from tackle to guard, a position he's never played before. I wonder what that transition's like. We'll talk to Richmond about that, get his thoughts. So we've got a great show coming up for you over the next couple of hours. We're going to have a lot of fun. So sit back, relax, and let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for the next couple of hours. But let's get started by going up to Eastern Connecticut, the home of my co-host, Mr. Bob Lazzari. Bob, how are you tonight, my friend?
Hi, Chris, and happy Memorial Day weekend to you and your family, and, of course, all those celebrating. And with the Minnesota people, Chris, maybe I'll have to give a line of some Prince music later on. We'll see how it goes there.
That's right. Good call. So Bob, I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous tonight, looking kind of sort of looking over my shoulder. I got the Penguins in Game 7 against the Lightning, so I'm a little nervous about how that thing goes. And then we've got Jackie Bradley Jr. with our Red Sox going for his 30th game in a row here, and he's 0 for 2 so far tonight. And Bob, how I feel about guys that mess with a streak, and if it turns out that it gets broken tonight, they've moved Jackie Bradley from the number 9 slot to the leadoff spot, and you never ever mess with a streak. And if it turns out that it gets broken tonight, I sort of got to look to the larger forces in John Farrell for having messed with it and moved him to the top of the lineup.
Yeah, it's very true, Chris. I was discussing that with a baseball group of people today, how this was a guy that was batting 9th and 6th last night, and you almost, these guys these days get comfortable in spots. They take pride in certain spots, and they almost claim them as their own. So, let's hope that's not. Let's just hope he gets a hit, Chris. We won't have to have this conversation. But I'd be probably more worried about Buchholz, who just gave up a home run. So that was expected, right? So
yes.
We'll see how it goes, but good luck to your Penguins, too.
I appreciate you. So, Bob, there are a couple other things, news and notes from around the NFL this week that I wanted to get your thoughts on. And first, a couple of days ago, Bills general manager Doug Whaley said in a radio interview that he wasn't sure the human body was designed to withstand playing the game of football. And as happens, Bob, so often when people take a position and actually express, their own opinions, the next day they got to come back and retract what they said. So in true to form, he said that he used a poor choice of words when he put that together. What he meant to say was that football is a physical game and injuries are a part of the game. The problem with that sort of retraction, if you will, Bob, or trying to clarify what he meant, is he did say that in his original comments, and I went back and looked. His original comments were, "This is the game of football. Injuries are a part of it. It's a violent game that personally I don't think humans are supposed to play." That's what he actually said. So, Bob, curious to get your thoughts on Whaley's comments.
Well, Chris, I think in a way, I think it gets overblown a bit because I think we all know what he was trying to say. If you've talked to the guys we have who've played the game, I don't think any human body, especially the way they play these days, is. I think the key word there was supposed. He probably should have said, "I don't personally think humans are designed to play," because and that's why semantics can get so many people in trouble these days. But we all know what he meant, Chris, about the physicality of the game. And think about it. He's right. There's no human being is supposed to get hit that hard by a guy who runs a 4.3. So, to try to, if you're in the game and you're a general manager, you're right in the middle of it, and you're promoting it almost. So he was in a tough position there, but probably should have said nothing.
Yeah, and we're gonna. I got a couple of things I want to get Tony's thoughts are around something that you sort of alluded to there, Bob. Guys are so big and so fast and so strong and in such great shape, right? Way better than guys in previous eras. Like I say, we'll talk to Tony about some of the guys that he played alongside, and those guys, back in the early '80s when Tony broke into the league, their biggest guys were 270, 275. Now you got offensive linemen, 330, 350. You sort of look at, the growth rate, if you will, for guys playing, in the league. If they were 270, 275, about 30 years ago, if you project, 30 years ahead, and if that, were to continue to sustain itself, and we're going to be looking at guys 370, 400 playing this game. I mean, at some point, Whaley's right. I'm not suggesting Whaley was wrong for saying it. I hate that he had to come back and retract what he said or try to clarify it in a different way. But you think about the speed and the size of guys, and it's almost comical when you see some of the guys in real life for how big they are. Right, the Jonathan Ogdens of the league, 6'7", 6'8", 6'9". 330, 340, 350. Thinking about those guys coming in, and clocking somebody. I mean, holy cow. The human body isn't ready to absorb that sort of thing. So it's a wonder to me. It is. Injuries are a part of the game. We hear about that every year. Great teams get derailed because of injuries. That is the way it goes. It is a very physical game. But I do believe at some point the inertia and the physics of playing the game is going to need to be looked at. And whether that's we look at different equipment to help, soften blows, if you will, or better protect players. Players today, you look around the league and they don't even wear knee pads. Just even the pad on top of the knee, right? There's just a little thin rubber pad. They don't want to wear those. And we know knees are, pretty much the top injury we see year after year are typically leg injuries, knee injuries. At least the ones that get guys out of end guys seasons on top of concussions and the things that we see from head trauma. But at some point we're gonna the league is gonna need to take a look at how do we better protect players. And yes, it may slow the game down, and that's why guys don't like to wear things around their legs because they want to be. They want to run 4.3. They want to run, as fast as they possibly can. But I think if, it's sort of, gearing the whole league down. It's not just one player, one group of players. If you geared the whole league down to where it was a slower game but a more protected game, I think it's at some point, Bob, we got to get there.
I totally agree, Chris. And I'm while you're speaking, I'm just thinking of those times when I'm watching a game on television, and they'll do a replay, and they'll say, "Listen to the hit," and
right.
They do it in fast motion, and it's a brutal game. That's pretty much what he was trying to say. It's a violent game. Injuries are part of it. When was the last time, Chris, you knew a football team who stayed healthy the whole season?
Right.
They can't stay healthy for 4 or 5 games now. And you're right. And this is a fascinating subject because they consistently say that it's a safer game than it's ever been. I don't know if I could agree with that. Maybe the equipment-wise, but Chris, like you alluded to, the speed and the size, it's just getting bigger and bigger. And I don't think it's going to come to a point where I don't know, unless you're wearing a suit of armor, you can't play this game and expect to be healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see just, where the league ends up going years from now to, like I say, try to make the game safer just overall and not just with respect to concussions, but the whole body. Yeah. Bob, the other thing I wanted to get your reaction to was Raiders owner Mark Davis's comment that a move to Las Vegas would actually unite Raider Nation more than divide it because, and I'm going to quote here, the Raider fans in Northern California get upset a little bit when we talk about going to Los Angeles, and the LA fans get a little ticked off at the fans in Northern California. So it seems like Las Vegas is a neutral site that everybody's kind of bought into. It will unite Raider Nation more than it will divide it. So, Bob, what that says to me is we've ticked off Raider fans in Northern California, we've ticked off Raider fans in LA, and now we're about to tick off Raider fans in Oakland for a second time. Vegas is a neutral site, so now all 3 sets of Raider fans from across California can get ticked off at Las Vegas. I don't know, Bob, what are your thoughts, Bob?
Yeah, you're reading the article, Chris, and I'm doing the same today, and I'm saying to myself, this is strictly a PR move, just trying to get the Raiders are going to be California's team playing in a different area. You could just come and everything will be fine. Again, he's doing some marketing. He says, hey, if you live here, you can come. If you live here, you come. Well, the problem is, Chris, if you live at Oakland, it's a 9-hour drive. Would you like to drive 9 hours to a football game? I don't know if I would do that. But, of course, L.A. is not as bad. But, that's all I could think of when I was reading about this. Again, he's drumming up support. He's already pledged the $500 million. It's going to happen, Chris, as we talked about a few weeks ago. Now it's just to get people the interest up, and again, I think the interest is already there. He doesn't have to come and say things like this. But again, hey, the more I'm sure he's gaining some fans saying, hey, maybe he's right. That's not far from California. Maybe the people in between, Chris. Between Northern and Southern California. Those are the lucky people, right?
That's right. Bob, before we move on, who do you and Tony D'Angelo have coming up on your show, Monday Night Sports Talk?
Chris, we're off till June 13th. We were supposed to do a show. Our next scheduled time would have been on Memorial Day, but the studio was closed, so we're putting together some guests that are typical. We're in the baseball frame of mind. Billy Martin Jr. has expressed interest in coming on the show, and so we may have him, but that'll definitely get on social media when we have it in stone.
All right. Be sure to check out Bob and Tony's show, Monday Night Sports Talk. Again, you can stream or download any of their archive episodes by going to their site, mondaynightsports.net. All right, everyone, like we like to do here every week on Thursday Night Tailgate, particularly this time of year as we head into Memorial Day, we want to say hello and thank you to our military personnel listening in around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network. We can't say thank you enough for doing what you do to protect all of us all year round. You keep, keeping us all safe. We thank you so much for doing that and the daily sacrifices that both you and your families, make for us every single day. Folks, please, if you're out and about and you see a member of the military in the airport, in a busy time of year, people traveling everywhere, you're going to see members of our military in your local airports. If you see them out on the street or in a restaurant, please stop and say thank you to them. It's just amazing to me, how much they do for us day in and day out and put themselves in harm's way. They've earned our gratitude and our respect. They are our real heroes. We also want to thank our veterans for your support and the daily sacrifices that you and your families made for us over the years. Big thank you as well to Sean Cruz and the wonderful folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. It is such an honor for us to have Thursday Night Tailgate being a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. And veterans, please continue to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org, a great site, news and articles that are both interesting, beneficial, and specifically geared towards our veterans out there. globalvoiceforveterans.org. Please check it out and bookmark it. TNT is brought to you by the great folks over at Kyvan Foods, owned by our great friend and former Falcons and Bengals tight end and TNT Hall of Famer Reggie Kelly. Folks, if you want to be king or queen of the grill this summer, it is a must that you use Kyvan Sweet Barbecue Sauce, ranked number 15 in the world by Barbecue Superstars. This barbecue sauce is a must for, the big game, your tailgating needs. It's available at select Walmarts and Kroger's throughout the eastern half of the United States. For locations, online orders, and recipes, check out their website at Kyvan82.com. And again, Kyvan is spelled K-Y-V-A-N. And if your local Walmart doesn't carry Kyvan Sweet Barbecue Sauce, well, request it. I'm sure they'll be happy to add it to their shelves for you. TNT is also sponsored by Dr. Peter Candelora and the great folks over at Coastal Orthopedics. Folks, you hear me talking about it every single week here on Thursday Night Tailgate. If you're suffering quietly, or maybe not so quietly with joint pain, stop and do what the Gridiron Greats do to get relief, and that's contact Coastal Orthopedics. They can help get you back to enjoying life. For more information, check them out online at bone-dr.com. Baseball season, like Bob and I mentioned a moment ago, well underway. And if you love the game, you and your family are absolutely going to love going to the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory. A very cool experience for everyone in the family because you get to walk their live production lines and see the bats being manufactured right there in front of you. A lot of cool exhibits. Right now, the Ripley's Believe It or Not exhibit with some very bizarre baseball treasures can be seen there. They recently unveiled a new life-size statue of Jackie Robinson, which is absolutely amazing. Don't miss the bat vault. You hear me talk about it all the time. Don't miss the bat vault. You get to hold actual game-used bats from some of the game's greatest legends. To find out more information about the museum and to book your visit, go to sluggermuseum.com. And, folks, if you love the game of golf, you absolutely have got to check out our friends at the French Lick Resort. What a fantastic place to stay and play golf or simply relax and enjoy yourself. If you've ever wondered what it's like to play in a major golf tournament, you can do it year-round there on their Pete Dye course, the home of last season's Senior PGA Championship and the LPGA Legends Championship. They also have the Donald Ross design course there, the site of Walter Hagen's PGA Championship victory back in 1924. A great spa, and oh, by the way, my friends, a casino right there on the property as well. To find out more information and to book your stay there, go to FrenchLick.com. And please, don't forget our friends over at the Gridiron Greats organization. Please help support a wonderful cause that's taking care of the guys who literally left so much of themselves out there on the playing field. These are the guys who had to still get, off-season jobs to support themselves and their families. And it's organizations like this one started by Mike Ditka, the Gridiron Greats, who are trying to help the guys we all grew up watching and reading about. Please go to gridirongreats.org to see what you can do to get involved. All right, we'll be back on the other side of this word from our friends over at Kyvan Foods with our first guest of the night, Mr. Rickey Foggie.
Add great flavor to your next tailgate party with Kyvan salsas. Former NFL tight end Reggie Kelly created these salsas for dipping chips and much more. In hot and mild flavors, Kyvan salsas make a great marinade. They are terrific in meatloaf and are super toppers for everything from baked potatoes to scrambled eggs. It's a great ingredient to enjoy in a variety of family favorite meals. And some people say Kyvan salsa is a meal to itself. With all the possibilities, Kyvan is truly salsa with soul. Kyvan salsas are also made from natural ingredients, and they are preservative-free. So look for Kyvan. That's Kyvan at area Walmart stores or online. Click on the Kyvan logo on our website to check retail and online locations. More information at Kyvan82.com. See the official bat of Major League Baseball, made right before your eyes, at the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory, located in downtown Louisville. Every guest gets a free Louisville Slugger souvenir mini bat at the end of the tour. See the world's biggest baseball bat and hold game-used bats from Mickey Mantle, Cal Ripken Jr., and more. Lots of interactive exhibits, and check out the museum store where you can buy a personalized Louisville Slugger with your signature on it. Visit sluggermuseum.com for more information.
Hello, everybody. Van Earl Wright here, reminding you that you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with the dynamic duo of Chris Mascaro and Bob Lazzari, right here on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
And we are back on Thursday Night Tailgate, waiting, hopefully to get the opportunity to talk to Rickey Foggie here in just a few minutes. Bob, while we wait for Rickey, a couple other news and notes from around the league wanted to throw at you. One of the things I've never understood is why the NFL seems to care so much about who wears what set of numbers. And we'll have some time, hopefully, with Michael Jackson a little bit later on in the show. It's one of the things I want to get his perspective on, because he started out wearing number 1, but they further designated which positions can wear which set of numbers back in 1993. And one of the changes they made was to limit wide receivers to only wearing numbers either 10 through 19 or 80 to 89, so we had to change his number from 1 to 81. But Bob, when I think about numbers, it's just to sort of designate who's on the field and who's not on the field, and what if a player made a good play or whatever, right? So really, so we can identify who's who. I mean, when you look at Major League Baseball, it's not like the shortstops are limited to only wearing 1 to 9 or 20 to 29. So, if you're a wide receiver and maybe you grew up, idolizing Paul Warfield, who wore 42, you can't wear his number. Doug Flutie, who wore 22 in college, he couldn't wear that number in the pros. I don't understand what difference it makes. Are they saying the players, you get so confused that if a guy wearing number 1 lined up at wide receiver, the defense would become befuddled thinking the place kicker is out there? Why does I don't know, Bob. Your thoughts? Why is it such a big deal? Why do we need to segment who gets what number in the NFL?
That's a great point, Chris. I'm like yourself. I don't really see if you like the Paul Warfield or whatever, you have no chance. Maybe it might be more for the media who's reporting on the game, looking from afar. You'll know if that was a running back, a wide receiver. It does get a little crazy, Chris, like at the high school level, because you can, I know at some of the smaller high schools up here, you could have anybody at any position playing any number. So you know you have a 49 who's a defensive tackle or whatever, and if you're used to it, maybe it's just a tradition, Chris. If you're used to looking at numbers, bigger numbers for bigger guys, maybe they want to go back to some consistency. But I think you're right. If you're playing a position in the defensive backfield and you see a guy lining up against you, you're not looking at his number. You just want to try to you're looking at his strategy and whatever. But kind of overblown. And especially again at the college level, Chris, sometimes you have over 100 people on the team or on the roster. I know at Yale and the Ivy League, you have guys, two guys on a team that could wear the same number. Of course, they can't be on the field at the same time. But, it is kind of a crazy thing. I think NFL, we would know these guys enough to know what number they were, if they were famous enough to warrant it. So, again, I'm with you, kind of crazy.
Yeah, so some other sort of crazy things that I was reading about today, Bob. There was an article about the Vince Lombardi Trophy, and how much that thing costs, and it's amazing to me, the amount of money that goes into the Lombardi Trophy. $25,000, Bob, for the Lombardi Trophy. It takes them 4 months to put it together, and 3 years ago the Ravens actually lost track for several hours, where it was as the players were sort of passing it around, and there was some concern for a few moments that they may have lost it. So you think about, could you lose the Lombardi Trophy, and if you did, $25,000, Bob, for that trophy.
$25,000, Chris. I want to know what it costs to manufacture it, and then I want to invest in that. Because think about it, when they approach the NFL every year, does the NFL say, this year, no, we're not going to go for it, right? So they must be a good, a nice little markup there. But my goodness, $25,000. We're in the wrong business, Chris. So that
right.
is, I actually didn't read that article, but to me that sounds incredible. Well, it sounds incredibly NFL-like. They were in the process of money, and I guess hey, I'm a Fordham guy, and so was Lombardi, so maybe it's the name, Chris. Valuable name, right?
There you go. And Bob, kind of speaking of the Ravens, news came out that they've been penalized 1 week worth of OTAs, and fined both the team and head coach John Harbaugh for violating off-season rules. And if you don't remember for folks that don't remember the story, the Raiders put rookies and first-year players in pads for 5 minutes, as they claim, 5 minutes at a recent rookie minicamp. And that's a violation of rules. You're not allowed to don pads and helmets and that sort of thing until training camp. So the Ravens did, and first they, I think, had denied it, and then said, well, when we were mistaken, we actually did do that. So now a fine of both time and money, Bob, for 5 minutes worth of pad and helmets.
Very strange, and I hate to use the word, Chris, but stupid. I mean, this was actually a punt protection drill from what I read, come on, I mean, a punt protection drill in the off season, Chris. I mean, you're trying to master movements, not do. This was a non-contact drill. I just don't get it. And the whole thing about at a rookie minicamp to even get caught. And but I think they thought the Ravens knew exactly about it and still violated the rule, and that's what got the NFL mad. So, again, why they felt it was necessary to use them is exactly what a bunch of people in the business have been saying. It makes no sense in May.
Right, and they pay a heavy price, Bob. The team got fined $343,057, which is kind of an interesting number. I don't know where you come up with $343,057, but okay, $343,000 as a team, and Harbaugh going to pay a stiff price on his own, $137,223. Again, how they come up with these numbers, I'm not exactly sure, but when you look at combined, you're looking at roughly $500,000 for this one mistake. It's interesting.
That's right. So those OTA sessions that were scheduled June 1 through 3, they probably, as one person said, they could probably read the rule book over those 3 days instead of practice.
That's right. And Bob, you know, one of the great things that I think ESPN does is put together their 30 for 30 series. I've yet to watch one that I didn't think was absolutely outstanding, and they a few months back put together an episode about the Bills and their 4 Super Bowl run back in the 90s. It's called Four Falls of Buffalo, and it's you know, really a great show to show the resolve that the Buffalo Bills had to keep getting back to the Super Bowl for 4 straight years. And you know, not only is it hard to just get back to the Super Bowl, you know, they were not only fighting every team obviously in the AFC to get there, but I think, you know, they were started to have to fight the fans from all across the NFL who were sort of sick of seeing them get back every year and to lose in a worse and worse fashion year after year. But you know, Bob, I think, you know, as time has gone on, you know, I think we hated, you know, a lot of us hated watching the Bills get back there every year, like I said. But I think, you know, you start to, the scales start to tip a little bit over time when you realize how unbelievable it was for them to achieve that, to get back 4 successive years. So, you know, it's interesting, you know, how time heals all wounds. Well, I mean, this might have been a collective wound, not just for the fans of the Bills who had to suffer through it for 4 straight years, but, you know, fans of the NFL that were tired of watching it for 4 straight years. But I think it heals the fact that now we start to gain a greater appreciation for just how unbelievable the achievement was to do it.
I totally agree with you, Chris. I'm not one of those guys that says you have to win, you have to. Nobody ever remembers who came in second. When you do something that great, I got a taste of this. Probably you did too. When we were very young children, speaking of, we're on a Minnesota kick tonight. The Vikings back then, kind of the same thing, right, Chris? With the Bud Grant teams, they got there, and Tarkenton, and they had such success over, you know, a bunch of years, and you know, probably couldn't do what they wanted to do. But I'll never forget, you know, for us to just remember and talk about it, it had to be an incredible accomplishment. But the Buffalo thing, I mean, that whole thing. Having watched them get there every year, I think at the end, some of us were just saying, let's at least get them one, right? At least have them get one.
Right.
Just never materialized for those teams, but it doesn't take anything away from that accomplishment and some greatness on the field.
Indeed. All right, we've got our first guest tonight, Tony Collins, hanging on the line, and we're going to get to Tony on the other side of the station identification.
This is Christine Lisi, and you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL stars go to tell their stories with Chris Mascaro and Bob Lazzari on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
And now back with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line in his regular weekly time slot is former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins. Tony, how are you tonight, my friend?
Hey, Tony.
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing, Chris and Bob?
All right, sir.
So, Tony, wanted to get started tonight by getting your thoughts on OTAs that are going on this week. When you were playing, did guys arrive for OTAs and training camp in the great shape that we see players today, or was that sort of the time that they got themselves back into playing shape?
Well, first of all, we didn't even have OTAs back then. I mean, all we had was a mini camp. We had a mini camp in May, and then we just reported to camp. The guys that lived in the area, they worked out pretty much on their own. We didn't really have a certain time that you had to come in. We worked out on our own, and you know that I don't think that started until probably the 90s, the OTAs. And I was retired in 1990, but I think the whole deal now is, you know, everybody's working out year round. Guys are getting nutritionists. They're getting their own trainers, and you know everything. It's a big thing now. They're understanding. And I wish I would understand more that, you know, your body is your business. And so, you know, you got to take care of your body. You got to watch what you eat. You got to get rest. You know, my father used to always tell me, rest is important. Now, I was like, yeah, I'll stay up till 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. But, it's just how important rest is for you and for your body. But we just went out and played. I'll tell you this, it was shocking when I first got to New England my rookie season. Our training camp at our weight room at East Carolina was bigger than the New England Patriots weight room. I mean, that's just how it was. It was stunning to me that it was like that. But it wasn't that much emphasis put on training your body. Just wasn't there. But now it's a whole nother atmosphere, man. And guys are in better shape. They're bigger. They're stronger. They're faster. And that's one of the reasons all these collisions that are happening. These guys are much faster and they're much bigger than they were when we were playing.
So, Tony, as a kid that you're from Penn up in New York, which is not far from Buffalo and Syracuse. And last week we talked about what it was like for you when you went back and played against the Bills up in Buffalo. But I'm just curious, did you were you a Bills fan growing up, Tony? I
was an O.J. Simpson fan, but I never was a Buffalo Bills fan. I love the way O.J. run and how he ran the ball and all the yards that he got. O.J. Simpson and Tony Dorsett was my guys, and Jim Brown, of course, as well. But I was never a Buffalo Bills fan for some reason, I don't know why. I just never was.
And Tony, speaking about the Bills, Bob and I were talking at the top of the show about the Bills general manager Doug Whaley's comments earlier this week that humans sort of weren't made to play football. He, of course, like you say, retracted that statement, saying what he meant was that injuries are a part of the game, and we all know that. But Tony, I went back and I looked at the roster of the 81 Patriots when you came into the league, and the biggest guy listed on the roster, two guys actually, Richard Bishop, Bob Kreider, were listed at 275. Julius Adams, who you've talked about a couple of times, 270. With today's linemen, those guys are 300, 330.
Yeah, man.
And just curious when you look at what the game is growing into, and Bob and I were talking about this. When you got guys right now being 300, 330, goodness knows 20, 30 years from now how big they're possibly going to be. But is it amazing to you to look at? I'm sure back then when you first met Julius Adams and you saw him at 270 pounds, you thought, boy, this guy's huge. And now guys are 60 pounds heavier than him.
Absolutely, and it's just like I said, what the way guys are training now. I mean, they can, we weren't allowed to. I don't think they wanted guys to get that big back then. But now, because of all the training that they do, you got a guy that's almost 320 pounds and running a 4.940, man. That's just not heard of. It's just crazy. And so, with the training and all that they're doing, man, it's just remarkable. And I'm gonna tell you, and that's where the injuries are coming in at, because guys are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, but just how the game is. And like I say, they're going to get bigger, they're going to get faster, and they're going to get stronger as the years go on, because everybody's trying to get that edge. Everybody wants to get that edge. You want to get faster, you want to get stronger, you want to get bigger, because that's the edge.
Right. Bob, questions for Tony?
And Tony, back to just Whaley's comments there, and no one could attest to it like you can, as far as just what we kind of touched on, how fast these guys, you're going to get hurt playing the game. I think where he made his mistake was say it's not a game you're supposed to be playing. I think he wanted to say it's a game the human body wasn't designed to play. And I know you agree that it's no doctor in their right mind is going to say, yeah, I want a guy 6'2", 230 hitting me who runs a 4.3. It's impossible, Tony, not to play 6-7 years in this league and come out the same person you went into it.
Yeah, it's not, man. Even now with me, fortunately for me, I got new knees. I thank God for that, man, because I was in bad shape with my knees, and I got a shoulder now that I probably need to get a new shoulder, but I'm trying to see if I can avoid that, but I don't know if I can. But there's so many other guys that even worse off than I am, where it's a brutal game. I mean, there's no ifs up. There's no way around the game. That's why I always say, man, I can't see how a baseball player gets more money than a football player. I just can't figure it out. I know they play so many games and they got so many tickets that they're selling and they play all these games, but yet still, a football player can go out and play a game and he might not live to see the next day, and that's just how it is. But again, it's a game that you love. I mean, you gotta love it to play it. If you don't love it, you're not gonna play it. And so it's a game that I love. And if I would know what I know now about the concussions, about how I would be after the game was over, I would still play it again, because it's a game where you learn so much about life, the ups and downs in life, the ups and downs in the game. You understand teamwork. You understand the discipline that's in it, and working hard and going through those different things during training camp. It's a game where you learn so much about life.
And I want to ask you, Tony, as we approach here in New England, the warm weather, which is always welcomed, but my goodness, back-to-back 90-degree days this week here. And back when you were in training camp, Tony, I remember playing high school football and taking the salt pills, Tony. And then, of course, Gatorade became popular. And then they just said only water and everything. Think back on your days, high school, college, early New England. What did you do to stay hydrated? What worked for you? And I'm sure there were times where things were a little shaky there.
Water and Gatorade was the thing. Coming from North Carolina, where the humidity is really, really bad down here in North Carolina, when I got to New England, man, I was ready. I was good. I mean, I just during training camp, it was pretty much an ease. I never got a day where I'll tell you this, my from coming to high school in North Carolina, that was a whole different story. My first day at training camp during college, man, I probably threw up a couple times because of the heat, and you get used to it. But when I came from North Carolina to New England, it wasn't that bad for me. But you it's the water, it's the Gatorade, and understanding what you got to do. But the best thing that you can do for yourself before you get to training camp is be in shape, because if you're not in shape, you're going to have some problems. So that's one of the things that I always did. Is make sure I was in shape before I got to training camp, because if you don't do that, then you will run into some problems with the heat.
Tony, you when you came into the league back in '81, Miami a couple of years later in '83 drafts Dan Marino, so you got a lot of good battles against he and the Dolphins in the mid to late '80s, and as I'm sure everyone can imagine, a lot of high scoring games. Talk about what it was like, trying to prepare as you guys were preparing to play the Dolphins back then. What was that like?
Well, first of all, we had a chance to get Dan Marino on our team. We did. Yeah. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, prepare for Marino, man. It was as an offense. We knew we had to control the game, because the more you keep him off the field, the better off you're going to be. So our game plan was to run the ball, have long drives, 10-12 play drives, and score to keep him off the field, because if the more he's on the field, the more dangerous he's going to be. And man, it was some battles that we had. We would always love to try to get them to come up to New England in December or late November when it's really cold. We never wanted to play them up in New England when, in September, October. But going down there, I remember there was a time where we didn't win in the Orange Bowl, and I think it was 16 years. We lost 16 straight games down there before we beat them in the AFC Championship. So it was some tough battles, man. And Dan Marino is, without a doubt, one of the best quarterbacks to play the game. I don't know why we didn't pick him before Tony Easton. I have no idea. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I'm sure Patriots fans are asking themselves that for about 30 years.
I'm still confused with that, man. How did that happen?
And Tony, you actually finished your career down in Miami with the Dolphins, and Sammy Smith was on that team, another guy who had some struggles off the field, but he was their main running back at the time. You know, talking about coming back to the league.
I didn't begin.
Oh, I think we lost you a little bit in the second. I'm just saying, hey, you finished your career down there in Miami, and Sammy Smith at the time was the main running back that the Dolphins had. He had his struggles off the field for a time as well. But talk about coming back to the league a couple of years after you had been out and the opportunity to be in Miami now, and now you're suiting up for the Dolphins as opposed to all those years you suited up against them.
It was really weird, man. I got to tell you, it was really, really weird because I think the second was really, really weird. But it's just how the game goes, and life's all about the choices that you make, and so
Tony, I think we're losing you, my friend. I think you must be going through a bad cell. Yeah, I think Tony, unfortunately, is driving through a bad cell. But Bob, I've always wondered, what it's like, when you put on, sort of the enemy's jersey after you fought against them for so many years. You think about, obviously we're a little jaded. At least I'm a little jaded, as a Red Sox fan. Anytime I see a Red Sox player go play for the Yankees. The ones that obviously leap to mind are the, Jacoby Ellsbury's, Johnny Damon's, Wade Boggs, who did that sort of thing. It's got to be a really horrible feeling, for fans, to see you coming back, in the enemy jersey and the enemy uniform, and now trying to, do the things to us that we used to do to them.
What's worse is, Chris, when you get the reaction from these guys after they sign for the millions, when it's not about the money. We know it's always about the money, and they say, well, especially like a Johnny Damon, always wanted to be a Yankee. You say the right things, and that's the really disgusting part. When these guys get down, once they put the uniform on and they get down to business, it's, they have to do what they do and practice their craft. But it's all the stuff surrounding it that drives us crazy.
Indeed. Tony, do we have you back with us? I saw Tony's number flash back up on the switchboard. I guess we don't. So hopefully we get the opportunity to catch up again with Tony next week. I'm a little disappointed that Tony isn't there because tomorrow's his birthday. We wanted to wish Tony a happy birthday and for being such a great friend of ours and a weekly contributor. Tony, if you're out there listening to the show and we can't hear you back on the show, know that we are wishing you a happy birthday, and we will certainly do it again tomorrow over social media as well.
Happy birthday, Tony.
All right, we've got our next guest, Michael Jackson, hanging on the line. We're going to get to Michael on the other side of this station identification.
Hi, this is former Rams QB Jim Everett, and you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate, a.k.a. TNT, and it's explosive in here with my buddies, the hosts, Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari, and we're listening to all this on the Armed Forces Radio Network. So take it away, Ben.
And now joining us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Michael Jackson. Let me remind you about Michael's background. He is from Tangiahoa, Louisiana. Played his college ball at Southern Mississippi. He was a sixth-round draft pick by the Cleveland Browns in 1991. Played in the league from 91 to 98 for the Browns and Ravens. He led the league in receiving touchdowns in 1996 with 14. Over the course of his career, he had 353 receptions for 5,393 yards, and he scored 46 touchdowns. And we are very excited that he is with us tonight on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Michael, Chris and Bob here. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me on, Chris and Bob. How are you guys tonight?
Oh, really good. Michael, you got to set me straight. How do you pronounce your hometown?
It's called Tangipahoa.
Tangipahoa. All right, there we go.
Wow.
So, Michael, I want to start with your time, back in college at Southern Mississippi. When I was doing the research on your background, I actually read you were a quarterback in high school, and then you get to Southern Mississippi, and they have this kid named Brett Favre as the quarterback. So, curious, did they recruit you to come play quarterback, or did they let you know in advance that, hey, we want you, but it's going to be, switching you to a position at wide receiver?
Well, it was a recruitment thing because of the fact that I was recruited as a quarterback to Southern Mississippi, and Brett Favre was recruited as a strong safety. But yet he had played quarterback in high school under his father's supervision at Pass Christian High School. And we went there, and there was a senior quarterback by the name of Alric Young. And we were playing in the games in our freshman season, and when Alric went down with an injury, Brett was the one that they decided to put in at that moment. And that moment never ended. And so as time progressed and the year passed, I decided that I would make the move to wide receiver, being that neither one of us had been redshirted or anything, and we was going straight through as freshmen. So I decided to move to wide receiver at that time.
And Michael, we've heard so many legends about Brett Favre's arm strength and throwing the ball so hard, breaking guys' fingers and that sort of thing, because of the speed of his passes. What was it like? What was it like being on the receiving end of passes from Brett Favre in college?
Well, though I had never caught a pass from John Elway before, that's what we would call Brett in college was Baby John, because there was no touch. Everything was a fastball, and if you caught it with your hands, then you were going to probably likely have dislocated fingers or something. And then even if you caught it in the crutch there in the bend of your elbow, then you'll do like I did. You'll end up with the crosshairs burned into your arm.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. He was, whether it was a 5-yard pass or a 50-yard pass, the velocity of the ball was the same.
Michael, October 14th, 1989, miracle of Louisville. You guys were down 10-9 in the final seconds of that game against the University of Louisville. You guys block a field goal attempt, and you sort of get one last chance deep in your own end. And as I was watching the highlights, Brett Favre fights off Ted Washington, who was playing for Louisville at the time, and he launches one from your own 11-yard line. And a few seconds later, a miracle happens. Finish the story for us.
Well, obviously the play was called just like any team in America would be the Hail Mary, and that's just the same thing. And so we were hoping that it would work. We never actually thought that it would, but I was lined up to go and be the tipper, and then we had a front guy, a back guy, and just so happened I got out, and the ball was there in the air, so everything was quiet and silent as long as it was up there, and I'm hoping to be able to get up here to tip the ball, and I think I missed it actually. It came off of my face mask, if I remember correctly, and Darryl Tillman, if I'm not mistaken, it was Darryl Tillman and Eugene Rowell. I don't remember which one was in the front and which one was in the back, but I think it was Darryl Tillman. Turns around, and next thing you know, the ball's in his hand. He's running in the end zone. I'm on the ground looking up, and I get up and run into the end zone. Matter of fact, I still have scars from that play because the Louisville band, was on the field, I guess, celebrating before the game was actually over, before that last play ended. And so that as he was running the touchdown, he runs into the band, which was in the end zone, and then I get up and I'm running down there, and they're dropping their instruments as they were trying to clear the field, and one of the instruments cut me from the front top part of my shin right down the side of my bone there. And
wow.
So I had to have 12 internal and like 17 external stitches done before we could depart to head back to Hattiesburg.
Oh my goodness, that'd be horrible.
It was after I realized what had happened, because I looked down there and I know as dark as I am, there shouldn't have been anything white down there. And there it was, white. And then next thing, once I saw it, it became red. So I knew there was a problem.
You did. Bob, questions from Michael?
Hi, good evening, Michael. I one of my favorite questions to ask our guests is about draft day in the NFL, and to me, it's amazing that you weren't drafted before the 6th round, Michael. I could only guess that it's because maybe Southern Miss wasn't a great football power at the time, or you didn't catch that many passes in that type of offense. But bringing back to that 91 day, what were your expectations, and then what happened after you found out you were picked?
Well, I was discouraged to begin with due to the fact that it's not like I had been worked out by many scouts and so forth, and their scouts would come into Southern Miss in order to work Brett out, but never was looking at me. And so I declined the opportunity to go out and just catch for the scouts, and I'm not an option. So I withdrew from school, actually, and I left and moved to Houston, Texas. And right after the main combine, which I was not invited to, they have what's called in Houston a mini combine. It was at a Tom Williams Center over there where a lot of athletes would work out and so forth, and that's where I had moved to. And I had the pleasure of running for like 3 teams at that time. I think it was like the Rams, the Oilers at the time, and maybe Kansas City, I think it was, maybe. And I was a little sick, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity at that time. It was like, okay, well, we're 20-some days from, less than a month away from the draft, and I have to try to move up somehow, some way. And I ran, and Ozzie Newsome, and I don't remember who the other scouts were that was there. When I ran, I had on high-top Converse turf shoes and thick, and I ran one way, and they wouldn't tell me what my time was, and they said, well, we think we made a mistake, or it was wind-aided or whatever, and we want you to turn around and run the other way. And I ran the other way, and by the time I got my 2 times, they were saying that, okay, well, one of them was a 4.29, and the other one was a 4.31, so there's no way we can dispute that it was wind-aided both ways. And I think one of the teams asked me not to run for anyone else, that they would take me outside of the draft and so forth. I'm like, well, why would I do that when right now nobody had me on their radar anyway? So I may as well continue to run. Worst case scenario is I can only move up as opposed to being a free agent, because I went from free agency, the possibility of being only a free agent to 6th round within a matter of days, I guess I should say. So that was the blessing in disguise. And so come draft day, I didn't expect to be called on the first day, nor did I really expect to be called on the second day, to be honest with you, because then it was 12 or 13. Excuse me.
Yeah.
12 or 13 rounds. I don't remember how many. But that morning came, that second day morning came, and that's when they started the 6th round pick. And I got a call, and I actually hung up on the caller when they first called, because I thought it was some of the guys that was in camp with me there, joshing, messing around and trying to play pranks and so forth. And so I hung up on them, and then the call came back in, and they were saying that this was Michael Lombardi and Ozzie Newsome from the Cleveland Browns. And I'm like, okay, yeah, what's up? And so it was still unbelievable at that moment until they start making their arrangements and talking about calling Tom Williams, who was acting in the capacity of my agent at that time, and setting up things and submitting the paperwork in order to sign a contract with the Browns. And it was overwhelming, but yet wasn't too sure of it still. So when I got off the phone with him, I kind of laid there to try to go back to sleep and like, oh, man, this is still whatever. And so then I got up and went down to Tom Center And that's when Con was like, yeah, I talked to Ernie Carsey or Michael Lombardi or what have you, and they said that, you know, they were bringing you in on Monday or whatever, and whatever the camp was going to start. And I was like, I thought that was BK. Not that you guys know who BK is. BK and Nate just playing with me or what have you. So I never got the full gist of the excitement that I could have had due to the fact that I thought it was all a joke. But once getting there and so forth, it still was as grand as if I was a first-round draft pick to me. Because of the fact that it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable to begin with. Yeah. And so that's where my excitement came in once I boarded that plane and actually landed in Cleveland, and that's when it really hit me. This excuse my expression, we are internet radio, right? Okay. Well, this species is real.
Yes. And Michael, your first, having Bill Belichick as your first professional coach, every person we've had on the show, whether they liked him, most of them, I have to say, glorified the guy. But no matter what, they learned from him. I'm sure you probably feel the same.
Oh, absolutely. The thing about Bill is that the reason that most of the guys glorify him is because he's worthy of that, because of the fact that he is one of the greatest individuals when it comes to planning, studying, and so forth with for your opposition. He'll put you in the positions to make the plays if you believe in what statistics, because he's a scholar of the game, and he's a student of the game, and from a percentage perspective, if you know percentages, and if you'll watch the film the way that he wants you to watch it in your position and so forth, he'll put you in position to make the plays happen. And it's just a matter of you exercising your right and your talent versus their talent in order to make those things happen. I've seen him do it since he's departed Cleveland for years and years and years. I've seen it when he was in Cleveland as well, but we didn't have enough people that believe in him and would give him enough time in order to get all of the components, the pieces in place to execute the vision that he had, I think.
And Michael, as a kid from Louisiana, I'm curious, you know, when you get the call and now you're going to be headed up to Cleveland and, you know, cold weather, snow, Cleveland Stadium, you know, the winds right off there off the lake. Were you prepared at all for what it was going to be like playing in the cold and snow?
I definitely wasn't prepared for the cold and snow, but again, it's my livelihood now, so it's like you're without options whether or not. It's not like I had the choice to go to Miami or somewhere where there was warm weather teams or even this thing, you know, where that's home. And I would have been able to not worry about trying to acclimate myself to the weather or the type of weather that there was. So it was we were optionless as it related to that. So we had to adapt to it and become a part of what was and not what we would like it to be. If we had any plans and intent on having the availability of staying there on that team.
And we are talking to former Browns and Ravens wide receiver Michael Jackson here on Thursday Night Tailgate. And Michael, you were there in Cleveland when the Browns moved to Baltimore in 1996. You had been in Cleveland for 5 years. I'm sure you had a level of comfort with the city, and you know you're starting to win over Browns fans there. And then all of a sudden, boom, team moves to Baltimore. What was it like when you got news that now you're going to be moving from Ohio to Maryland?
Well, there was a sense of disbelief even amongst the players at that time, because you're at a storied franchise here, and for it to be moving, this is like one of the first. This is like the foundation of the NFL almost, and for it to possibly be moving, and then the unfortunate reality is that the brunt of the criticism would come to you as a player due to the fact that you're the one that the fans are seeing on a daily basis and that's out there in the streets and having to deal with it. And you have to, one, you have to defend the honor of your job, and two, it's like, okay, well, you have to be compassionate as well as far as the fans are concerned and respect the fact that, hey, this is their baby. You were born into this, but this exists long before you. So it's kind of like a catch-22 for you as a player due to the fact that what am I going to do if I stay here? Yes, I'm upset as well on behalf of the city, but then this is my livelihood, and I have to look at taking care of my family as well. And so if the team is going to move, then either I have to move with the team or I have to stay here, and who's going to pay me the money that the team is paying me in order to make this life for me happen, you know? So it was crazy, but we were able to balance it, and we tried to make sure that the fans could understand that it wasn't us that was making this decision. It was the organization that was making the decision.
Michael, one more before we let you go. I read that after your playing career, you went back to your hometown and you actually became mayor. What got you interested in politics?
Well, people, I guess you say, people have wishes as to what you can do. I won't say wishes, I'll say expectations more so than wishes. The wishes are coming from you. And due to those expectations, you want to try to find out how to not financially disenfranchise yourself, but yet try to help those that are less fortunate than you were, given the opportunity that you were given to play a sport that you love and to get paid at it. So what I said was, okay, my purpose in life is helping people because I did it, went in the cities that I worked in, and then also when I came home, that was my desire, was to try to help, because the place that I come from is far, far behind the places that I went to in order to establish myself. And I didn't think that it would be quite as hard as it is or was to try and help individuals. But when growth is not known by the folk that you're trying to help, then it tends to put more pressure on you and the expectations of things. It's like, okay, well, they don't think you can do anything, but then when you're in the position to do so, then they want you to do everything. And unfortunately, with politics, it doesn't quite work that way unless you're going to reach in your pocket and try to do these things. There is a hierarchy, I guess I should say. And I tell people, from local government, you have to depend upon regional government support. Regional government is dependent on state government. State government is dependent on federal government. And what we don't understand is the chain of command and the chain of how financing and funding and different things are coming down. And as they come down, they're smaller and smaller and smaller. And by the time they get down to small town local government, then there's only the remnants of, let's just say if it was a rice strainer, and the strainer itself was the federal government, and then the rice is the state government. And now you have the starchy water that's the regional. And by the time it gets to the local government, all you can do is taste the fact that it is the water that the rice is boiled in. But people don't understand that you can't go from 0 to 100 in government,
right?
Overnight. And
well, you
so
certainly
I got a little disgusted with it, and so I kind of didn't even run a campaign the second term. But then now the people understand a little more, and they're asking me if I would get back involved with it. I say yes, if you guys will be patient with me, because the one thing that I'm not afraid of is to voice the concerns of the people. But I'm not going to disenfranchise my immediate family in order to try and pull a whole village out of poverty.
Well, you certainly make a lot of sense, Michael, and hopefully, is there any chance we could get you to run as an independent presidential candidate, because you seem like a far better option than the two candidates we have to choose from right now.
That's 2 votes right here.
No, heck no. I might have to write it in, man. You might have to write it in on the ballot. Let's do it. We'll try it. We'll try anything now.
There you go.
Michael,
right. How can our listeners kind of stay up to date with what you're doing and follow you both online and over social media as well?
Well, right now I don't have a website up for anything that I'm doing. I will as soon as I go out and win this election in October to become the mayor of the town again, and you'll be able to catch up with me there. in that town that you try to pronounce with the village of Tangible War. And I'm not sure if I'll have it a .com, .net, or Louisiana State. But the sure way is that to keep listening in to you guys, and I'm sure that I'll be back on shortly after I become mayor all over again, and I'll be able to direct them in that direction.
There you go. Absolutely. Let's make it a day. We look forward to that. Michael.
All right, as do I.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your night to be a part of the show. We look forward to that opportunity to catch up with you. And in the meantime, best of luck with the campaign. Best of luck to you and your family as well.
A little choked over here. I'm leaving you guys. It's bad evening. But I thank you guys.
Chokes up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys for having me on.
All right, Michael. Take care.
You too.
That is former Browns and Ravens wide receiver Michael Jackson. And Bob, it's interesting, the legend, is true. No touch on the pass from Brett Favre, all fastballs. And the crosshairs and the elbow, it's burned into the holy cow.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing, Chris, when he got to Baltimore that first year, he led the league in touchdown receptions, and Vinny Testaverde, who was known to throw the beautiful ball. So it might have had something to do with things.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bob, Jackie Bradley 0 for 3 for crying out loud. Come on, Jackie. He's going to get one more shot, so hopefully he gets a base hit or at least the Red Sox go on a big run because they're losing 6-2. But hopefully he gets at least one, if not two more at bats, and gets an opportunity to get that hit. If not, I'm telling you, putting him in that leadoff spot, you just can't mess with a streak like that.
I think we expected the 6-2 score, Chris, but we expected a hit. So come on, Jackie.
That's right. All right, we've got our next guest, Rick Upchurch, hanging on the line. We're going to get to Rick on the other side of this station identification.
Hey, welcome back. This is Todd Washington, two-time Super Bowl champ and offensive line coach for the Baltimore Ravens. You are listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with my man, Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Go get them, guys.
And now joining us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Rick Upchurch. Let me remind you about Rick's background. He's from Holland, Ohio, which is not too far from Toledo. He was a fourth-round draft pick by the Denver Broncos in 1975 out of the University of Minnesota. Played in the NFL from 1975 to 1983, all in Denver. He was selected to the Pro Bowl 4 times in 1976, 78, 79, and 82. Over the course of his career, he accounted for 10,081 total yards, including just under 1,100 yards returning in his rookie year. 4 punt returns for touchdowns in his second year, 8 for his career, and just under 1,000 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns in 1979. At the time of his retirement, he was the NFL's all-time leader in punt return yards, and he currently stands 11th on that list. He is a member of the Broncos' 50th anniversary team, the NFL's all-decade teams for both the 1970s and 1980s. 2003, he was elected to the state of Colorado Sports Hall of Fame, and in 2014, he was elected to the Broncos Ring of Fame. And we're very honored that he is with us tonight on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Rick, Chris, and Bob here. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Rick.
Chris and Bob. It's an honor to be on the show with you guys, man.
Thank you.
So, Rick, first of all, happy belated birthday to you, my friend, back on the 20th. So, happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. They come around every year at this time, so I'm just glad to be here, man. That's for sure.
Great.
So, Rick, as a very talented player that, like I say, is from just outside of Toledo, and for those who don't know exactly where Toledo is, it is in the very northwest tip of Ohio, practically on the border of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. I'm curious, Rick, how does Ohio State, Michigan, and Indiana all miss out on you, and you end up still in the Big Ten, but over in Minnesota?
Well, I went junior college route out of high school. If you remember back in college, you couldn't play varsity as a freshman. When you came in, you were basically, the crash dummy. I mean, you were on the practice squad. You were trying to earn your stripes and that ordeal. And I wasn't a big guy coming out of high school. I was a running back. And so, I only weighed maybe about 170 pounds soaking wet. but I could flat out run. And so I also thought that it would be a good thing for me, and my coaches thought it would be a good thing for me to go and mature a little bit more at the junior college route. Also, my grades, they did suffer. My grades suffered in that whole deal because my grandfather who raised me, he ended up passing away when I was, 16 years old, 17 years old. So I was living in the house by myself, so it was pretty tough. I had to work. I played sports. I had to get my grades and all of those type of things. So, I missed out on a lot. But let me tell you, my coaches that I had, my teachers that I had in high school, they really kept me on track, and the people in my neighborhood. So that's why I love Holland, Ohio so much, because it was, that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I'm one of those type of people. And so they all thought it was the best thing for me to do was go to junior college, be able to get my grades right, and also to mature. And you also play for championships. You make all-conference. You can make all-American, which I did at each one of those things. So, it really worked out for me to go junior college and then get looked at by those major colleges because, once again, I wasn't going to be anybody's, battering ram, man. That just wasn't me.
And, Rick, 1973 was the most successful of the 2 years that you were there. From a team perspective, you guys go 7-4. You had some tough games against Ohio State, Michigan, and Nebraska that year, who were all ranked in the top 5. But you also had some big wins against Purdue, Illinois, and Wisconsin to end that season. I'm curious, what do you remember about 1973?
Well, let me tell you, we had a great year that year. We all were healthy. And, in any game, it's about staying healthy and being able to finish strong. And that year, we were able to do that because we were all healthy at that time. I know the next year, we had a lot of injuries. A lot of our starters were missing. We were, starting over in that whole deal. We were bringing in new players. So, we fell off that year. But remember, the Big Ten, man, was just rock 'em, sock 'em. And then outside of our conference, we took on some, TCU, who was awful good. We played North Dakota State, who was awful good as well. So when we went outside the conference, we played some good teams as well.
Bob, questions for Rick?
Yeah, Rick, it's a pleasure to speak with you, and I was such a big fan back in the day watching the Broncos back in the 70s, and it was such an honor to watch you. But when you came in the league as a college running back, Rick, all of a sudden you're in the NFL here, and you're returning punts and kicks pretty much exclusively. Who was responsible for that? And because you did it a lot right off the bat, who was responsible? Was it a John Ralston decision?
Yeah, John Ralston drafted me, and I basically was drafted as a punt and kick returner because they needed one at that time. And if you remember, Haven Moses was there, Billy Van Heusen was there. These were all veterans. Then they brought in a young man from the USFL. His name was Jack Dolvin. And so I was learning. I was in the learn thing, man. I was learning how to play that game because, like I said, I was a running back. And so, they were mentoring me, showing me how to run patterns, how to, get separation, once again, how to, gauge your speed, man, when you're coming out of cut. So, and I was learning all that stuff. And so it was awful hard for me because, you're trying to make the team, you're trying to learn a new position. But I did know this. All my career, through high school, I can go all the way back to Kiwanis League. I loved returning punts and kickoffs. And so that was something that was natural for me, and that's why the Broncos took me on. I remember against Wisconsin, I returned a kickoff return 100 yards against them, but we ended up losing that game. But they saw what I was able to do as far as returning punts and kickoffs.
And the stats are tremendous, Rick. I'm looking at your return yardage, and, when a guy returns punts these days, 7-8 yards a punt, you averaged over 12 for your career, and some years in the 14-yard range, which is incredible. But the key to returning, Rick, it can't all be speed. We've seen speed guys that couldn't do it. There has to be an elusive nature to it, and I guess some of it is scripted on the parts of some teams. How was it in Denver as far as special teams wise?
Well, we scripted everything out. We had a middle return like everybody else. We had a right return and a left return, depending on what a team would give us. And we would practice those each and every day. I had some great coaches. I had Marv Braden, that was my coach there at Denver. And then, I had Fran Postwood, who really helped me out a lot because I remember when I got there, Fran Postwood was down in Houston. And so one day he came to me and says, Rick, if you want to really be great at this, here's a piece of tape I want you to look at. And it was of Billy White Shoes Johnson. And I said, boy, let me tell you something. This guy right here is awful, awful good. And I also like Johnny Rodgers. Johnny Rodgers really intrigued me when I was in junior college. He was there at Nebraska. And so when I saw Johnny Rodgers, man, on Thanksgiving Day against Oklahoma and the way he could run those things back, I said, man, I want to be just like that man one day. And so, I just really worked at it. I just made sure that I studied film. I made sure, man, the coaches and me as a player with the other players, we could communicate. And I had great vision. I could see the field, and I had confidence that the guys were going to block for me. So with all of that together and God-given speed, I was able to do some positive things, returning punts and kickoffs.
We are talking to former University of Minnesota and Denver Broncos star wide receiver and kick returner Rick Upchurch here on Thursday Night Tailgate. And Rick, as I was looking back over the roster and the team and the guys that you played with back in '73 and '74 on those Minnesota teams, Tony Dungy was the quarterback. You guys didn't run the ball all that much. You rushed for nearly 2,000 yards over those two seasons. But talk about the offense that you guys ran and what it was like playing alongside Tony Dungy.
Well, it was great. Once again, Tony, was one of those guys that was very intelligent. He came out of Jackson, Michigan, where he was just, he was all world. He was an All-American at quarterback. And like I said, very intelligent, very smart, very elusive, man. We ran the veer offense. So it was about getting us off, outside. And Tony was very good at playing the option off the defensive end or anything else, and he threw a good ball. So we had a great quarterback in Tony Dungy. Even at that time, we knew that he had some great skills, whether it be coaching or whether it was playing the game. He was going to do some great things. So it was an honor and a pleasure to have that time with Tony and play with him.
And, Rick, your first game in Denver, your rookie season in 1975, it was at home against Kansas City. You scored on a 13-yard rushing touchdown to give you guys a 10-7 lead in the second quarter, and you opened the second half with a 90-yard touchdown reception. You finished the game 153 yards, 153 receiving yards, and you guys ended up going on to win that game 37-33. But that's a heck of a way to begin your career in Denver.
Well, it really was. I mean, and I wasn't expecting to play any wide receiver at that time because once I was playing behind Haven Moses, and, Haven was a perennial all-pro himself, and so I'm just expecting to run, kickoffs back and punts back and that whole deal. Well, Haven, he ended up getting injured, and I'm backing him up. And so I get thrown into the Wolves. Charlie Johnson, who was the quarterback at that time, he called me in. He says, hey, Rook, just do what I tell you. And, man, let me tell you, I did listen to him, and a lot of great things happened. As you know, that game I ended up with 284 yards and 2 touchdowns, and we came back and beat the Kansas City Chiefs in that first game.
Mm-hmm. Your second year in the league, Rick, in 1976, you had back-to-back weeks when you returned punts for touchdowns. You had two touchdowns on punt returns against Cleveland. Following week, you get another one against San Diego. Talk about what that's like. At some point, I'm imagining special teams coaches are saying, "Don't kick it to 80."
Well, yeah, that became one of the themes, no doubt about it. But even before that, teams were testing us, and against Cleveland, I'm from Ohio. Everybody back home is going to watch this game because remember, we were regional. So back in Denver, we were only getting regional games and not anything out of the Rocky Mountains going back to the East Coast. So by playing Cleveland, this game was going to be televised back home, and I had that opportunity to return two punts in that whole deal against the team that I knew about growing up back in Ohio. So I had a lot of phone calls that day, and everybody told me what I had done, and that hadn't been done in 21 years. Nobody had returned 2 punt returns, man, in 21 years. It was Ellen Tennell, I believe it was. But anyway, to do that, man, was just it opened up my eyes, and I said, man, I can play in the National Football League, and I can really help this football team in a positive way by doing things positive on special teams.
Bob, a couple more for Rick before we let him go?
Sure, I'll ask you what I ask all the Broncos we have on the show, Rick. As far as the altitude in Denver, how did you acclimate it to when you first got there, and did you guys consider that an advantage at every home game?
We always thought of it as an advantage. We would see those shoulder pads, man, those guys breathing deep, man, after we took them deep a couple of times. And then we said we got them, no doubt about it. And then the big guys, we would run them from sideline to sideline and get them tired, and then we could get our running game going. But I did acclimate. When I first got there, let me tell you, it was awful tough. I mean, breathing, trying to acclimate your body, man, and get your lungs expanded because you're taking in less air. But once you get there and put in some time, you get acclimated to it, and you're like, hey, it's like anything else.
And, Rick, finally, how proud are you of spending your entire career with one organization? I know it was a little bit different back then, but 9 years in Denver, you must have had a lot of respect for the organization, and they've always seemed to run things in a classy manner.
Well, once again, nobody's perfect and no organization is perfect. But the Denver Broncos, man, they do a great job, man, of working with us, the alumni, and, really giving us some honors and that whole deal. The Ring of Fame thing is awful good for us as former players that we get recognized, and Pat Bowlen and them put that together as well. So, having been a Denver Bronco all my career and with no other team, I'm honored and I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to play with a great organization. So,
And Rick, like you just mentioned a moment ago, and we mentioned in the intro, you were elected to the Broncos Ring of Fame in 2014, and then to the State of Colorado Sports Hall of Fame in 2003. And what's it like being recognized, not only by your team in that way, standing out there in front of your fans that you played in front of for so many years, and then by the state in which you played in?
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure. Once again, there's a lot of tradition there for the Denver Broncos, and you can go all the way back to Floyd Little, Frank Tifuco, all the way up to now with Von Miller, and who's going to be a great ball player as well for the Denver Broncos. So it's an honor and a pleasure to be up there with the guys that are up there, the John Elways, the Shannon Sharps, and the rest of the great ball players, and being elected into that Ring of Fame. It really is.
And, Rick, what are you doing now?
You know what? I'm with my wife, looking in her eyes and that whole deal, and just absolutely loving my wife.
That's a good gig, man. That's a great gig.
There you go. Absolutely.
So that's what I'm doing, man. Enjoying my wife and enjoying life, guys. As much as we possibly can.
There you go. And Rick, for our listeners who want to follow you, are you available to be followed online and on social media?
Well, absolutely. They can go to ratpack.org, I think it is. They can go to ratpack.org, or they can go to Rick Upchurch, AOL.com, NFL at AOL.com. They can do that thing as well. They can go online, Facebook me. I'm on that as well. So they can get a hold of me through social media. Yes, they can.
There you go. Rick, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to be a part of the show. We hope you'll come back and do it again sometime. So many other questions we'd love to get your thoughts on. You're fantastic.
Chris and Bob, thank you very much, man. And you guys keep up the great work of what you guys do as well.
Thank you very much. Rick, hopefully we catch up with you soon. In the meantime, all the best to you and your family, my friend.
All right. Thank you, guys. You take care.
Good night, Rick.
Bye-bye.
That is Rick Upchurch, former University of Minnesota and Denver Broncos wide receiver and kick returner. And Bob, it's really amazing when you think about 10,000, almost just over 10,000 all-purpose yards during the regular season that Rick had, 4 Pro Bowls, a member of the not only the All-Decades team for the 70s but also for the 80s and the Broncos Ring of Fame and the State of Colorado Hall of Fame. What an outstanding player Rick was in so many different ways, so dynamic. Started out, running back at Minnesota because that's the offense they ran, and was still a good runner when he got to Denver, and then a great wide receiver on top of that. Great player. All around.
Exactly. Not a good player, a great player, Chris. I remember as a teen tuning into those 4 o'clock games basically to see Upchurch return kicks. He was one of those first guys that just brought excitement to the whole thing. And when you think about it, Chris, one of the guys that put the Denver Bronco franchise on the map, when they started getting good in the 70s and everything. But one of the better returners I've ever seen, and just a great guy on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I was a big Rick Upchurch fan. When he was playing, because to your point, Bob, he was just so much fun to watch. And you knew when he dropped back there and they were going to, whether it was a kickoff or a punt return, you knew it was something exciting, could happen at any moment, and he made it happen so many times. But what a lot of fun it was watching him during the course of his career, and a great guy here tonight. So we really appreciate Rick being a part of the show. Hopefully we get the opportunity to do it again real soon. All right, before we get to our next guest, Richmond Webb, I want to give a shout-out to our good friend Renee Shull at Career Engagement Institute. Folks, you hear us talk about Renee, brag on her every week here on Thursday Night Tailgate. But if you're upside down in your career and you want to move on, go to careerengagement.institute to see how Renee can help you. You've heard Toy Cook bragging on Renee a few weeks ago when he was a part of the show. You hear us singing Renee's praises as well. You're just not going to find a better person to work with than Renee Shull over at Career Institute. What a great individual she is, and we are very proud to partner with her here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Folks, we all want to work with someone that we can trust and who actually has our best interests at heart. Well, you're not going to find someone who fits that description any better than Renee Shull. She is smart, creative, very talented. She's the kind of person you want to work with and have working for you. She's been doing some great things for some of our guests who have been in transition from being pro athletes and are now getting into the job market. I'm telling you, folks, she's just the very best. There isn't a better way to describe Renee than that. If you're an athlete or anyone in the job market, do yourself a favor and reach out to Renee. You're going to be so very glad that you did. Go to careerengagement.institute online and give her a follow on Twitter at IntegratedPlay. All right, now back with us and making his 6th appearance on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Richmond Webb. Let me remind you about Richmond's background. He's from Dallas, Texas, played his college ball at Texas A&M, where he was named All-Southwestern Conference in 1989. He was also a team captain that season and winner of the Aggie Hart Award. He was part of 2 Southwestern Conference championship teams for Texas A&M in 1986 and 1987. He was a first-round draft pick, the 9th overall selection by the Miami Dolphins in 1990. He played left tackle in the NFL from 1990 to 2002 for the Dolphins and the Bengals. He set a Miami record with 118 consecutive starts as an offensive lineman, folks. To give you some frame of reference, that means he didn't miss a start for 7 1/3 seasons. He was selected to 7 consecutive Pro Bowls from 1990 to 1996. He was named AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1990. He also led the NFL, also was named to the NFL's All-Decade team for the 1990s and was inducted into the Dolphins Honor Roll in 2006. And what keeps him out of the NFL's Pro Football Hall of Fame, or the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I should say, really remains a mystery to Bob and I. But we're very thankful that Richmond is back with us again tonight on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Richmond, Chris and Bob here. Thank you for joining us again.
Thanks again.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Bob. How y'all doing tonight?
Good.
Really good. Thank you,
sir.
So, Richmond, I wanted to start off our time tonight by, kind of talking about the Dolphins' recent draft. They drafted, Laramie Tunsil, left tackle out of Ole Miss, in the first rounds. There's been some concerns about Laramie for some of the stuff he has, done off the field. He's got some distractions. We saw the picture with the marijuana gas mask that he had that got posted on Twitter, and by his own admission, he took some money and some other things from Ole Miss coaches for himself and his mom. So there are lawsuits flying, all kinds of sort of distractions. I'm just curious. There's so much flying at you as a rookie in the NFL. You got to learn a new playbook, a new system, and all that sort of stuff. Curious, get your thoughts on, the amount of distraction that he has, and now trying to, get himself acclimated to being a Miami Dolphin and now playing at the pro level.
Well, the thing is, like you said, distractions can play a huge part. I think the thing probably, if it was me, would probably concern me more would be the lawsuits more than anything. But as far as the incident that came out during the draft where he had the mask on and, he was smoking, I guess, weed or whatever. And, he admitted he took the money, but it sounded like his family was in a dire need. So I think he thought at that time, just tell the truth. And, I can't really blame the kid. If your mom's struggling and she needs something and they help, it is what it is. But I think the thing that would concern me would be the lawsuits. And if you've never probably been through that, been in a situation like that where you had to go through that and, you just now getting your hands on some money and then it possibly taken away from you and you want to help your family, I think that would concern you. But you're right. You need to get in camp, learn the system, this and that, and just be able to focus on football because it's tough enough already. But I think that definitely would concern me as well.
So now, Richmond, sort of the business, starts of helping him, get acclimated to playing left tackle in the league. But I'm just sort of curious, have the Dolphins ever reached out to you to bring you in to help, a young left tackle, learn from you and, all the techniques that, made you successful over the years?
No, the offensive line coaches probably want to work, with that guy. And, they had an instrumental part as far as a lot of times putting their input and saying, hey, this is the guy I want, this and that. So I guess it would probably be like when, John Sandusky drafted, me. He was my offensive line coach, and he did a tremendous job, getting me ready, this and that. So I think he'll be fine. I think he's a guy with a lot of upside talent. I expect him to play for a long time at a high level. Just watching some of the clips and, him playing at Ole Miss, and, he was considered to be one of the easily top 5 draft picks. So this kid can play. He just made some mistakes that, caused him to slip in the draft.
Richmond, we're starting to, I think, lose you a little bit. You sound kind of muffled.
Oh, okay.
There you are.
There we go.
Okay. Do I need to call you back from a landline? You think that'd be
No,
good?
No. You're good. Wherever you're at right now is perfect.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries. Bob, questions for Richmond?
Hi, Richmond. It's great to speak with you as usual. And when you came in the league, Richmond, 1990, usually there's a big learning curve. And I ask all the guys their rookie years, what did you have to get better at? You were a Pro Bowler right off the bat. But there had to be something when you got to the NFL, Richmond, that you said, okay, this is what I have to work at or get better at. Not too much, but what was it?
Well, I think it's just into the speed of the game. But I think one of the things I truly had to learn, and I definitely have to thank Richard Dent for this. That was my first preseason game, and after the game, he came to I think Marino asked him because me and Keith Sims were rookies. That was our debut starting against the Chicago Bears in Chicago, and he gave us some good compliments and just said, we needed to work. Well, I needed to work on my stance as far as giving away when it was a run or pass. He could tell by the pressure I put on my hands and stuff like that. So once Coach Sandusky found out I was, tipping off stuff like that, it just makes you really know that the film study and how important it is to get an edge in this game. I had to really work on getting in a balanced stand, not putting too much pressure on my hands or not putting enough pressure on my hands that, those savvy veterans, they look for anything just to get the edge. And that was one of the things that really, I had to learn quickly, but it was truly a blessing that he shared that information with Marino, and then, having my coach really work with me to resolve that issue and get ready for the season. That was a tremendous help for me. So I definitely thank him for that.
Richmond, Chris and I continue to be amazed by the fact that you just never missed games, and I guess technique has a lot to do with it. You were a very big man, and when big men get hurt, usually they're big hurts, and I know there were probably games there where you probably could have sat out, but you didn't. How important was it to keep the streak going? Because you never let up.
I guess after a while you just start playing, but I never really. I guess the key thing I never did. I never really focused on the streak, and I think I didn't until I missed a game to let me know, or it was a game or two before I was about to surpass somebody that they let me know. But I just tried to, keep my body in the best shape possible, and even if you had something nagging, just trying to get ready for the next week, and just trying to know the difference of, playing hurt or playing injured. It was a difference, and if you felt you could get out and help the team, then that's what you did. But you never wanted to get out there and know you should be playing, and then you hurt the team. So I think that's what I focused on more, rather than, hey, this is start number 65. I got to get start number 66 next. So I think that's how I approached it, and it was kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So it just went by. I just took it one game at a time.
And Richmond, the Dolphins brought in Jermon Bushrod from the Bears, and it looks like they may try to switch him from tackle to guard, a position that he's never played before. I'm curious to get your thoughts. How hard is it to make a transition like that, moving from tackle to inside at guard?
Well, it's funny you ask that because, I played guard up until my senior year, and they switched me to tackle. And then when I got to the Senior Bowl, I wanted to move back to guard, but Buddy Ryan was my coach, and I tried to beg and plead because I always thought I was a better guard than tackle, and he was like, no, everybody wants to see you tackle. So I think the difference is normally the interior guys are a little bit bigger as far as defensive tackles and stuff like that, and you have to have a much firmer pass set to where, you can't give up too much in the pocket, where, the tackle you can set back a little deeper, and you kind of build that wall around the quarterback where he's in the pocket. So it could be an adjustment, but I think he can make the adjustment because coaches probably look at him saying, at least let this guy try it. But they must feel that he can get the job done in order for them to ask him to make that move or that transition. So I think he'll be fine.
And Richmond, I read that when Jackie Sherrill first came to recruit you to come play at Texas A&M, he handed you a business card with Outland Trophy written on the back and told you to keep that card, and 4 years from now I'm going to go with you when you win the Outland Trophy. Do you mind telling that story?
Yeah, he told that to me, and my parents were sitting there, and I kept the card. The only thing was I didn't win the Outland bit. I think just being a kid coming out of high school, and then having a coach speak that highly of you, and a lot of times people can see things in you that you can't see in yourself. So once I actually signed with Texas A&M, I kept the card and this and that, but I had a good career at Texas A&M, but I didn't win the Outland. But I think it was just something that I always, worked toward, this and that. But it was a great story, and it was a great mental thing for me because I never forgot that, and I just love Coach Sherrill to death. So he was a great coach, and kind of got the A&M program turned around back then, and started the wrecking crew and all that. So it was some fun times back then.
We are talking to former Texas A&M, Miami Dolphins, and Cincinnati Bengals left tackle Richmond Webb here on Thursday Night Tailgate. And Richmond, as you talk about, coming out of high school and, the idea of, playing guard or tackle, you actually played defensive lineman in high school, right? And sort of dreamed of sacking quarterbacks, not protecting them.
You're exactly correct. And I played, I think, my true freshman year, and then my redshirt freshman year I played, and then in the spring we just had guys. We just had a bunch of talent at the defensive line position, and the coaches came to me and said, hey, we want you to try to play offense. And I had played offensive tackle in high school, so I said, hey, I'm not playing over here. I said, maybe I can get on the field over there. And Immediate was like second team. I was backing up Louis Cheek. He was a left tackle. And then what happened was a guy that was playing guard, Trace McGuire, learned a lot of things from him, and he got hurt. And they moved me from left tackle to guard, and that's kind of how I got in there. And then the rest is just kind of history. So, and matter of fact, I had a good coach there. I mean, he was tough. Coach Avizano, rest in peace now, but helped me a lot. Just, his mental preparation. He was a tough coach. He was a great special teams coach for the Cowboys once he, moved to NFL. But when he was my offensive line coach at Texas A&M, I mean, he whoop you in the shake quick. And if he thought you could do it, yeah, he was going to get you to do it whether you wanted to or not. So, yeah, Coach Avizano was great.
And I also read that in a Texas A&M related book that your nickname was actually Bam Bam. Where did that come from?
That's when I was playing defensive line, and if you remember the cartoon, The Flintstones, I'm probably older than you guys, but it used to be a cartoon called The Flintstones, and Fred's friend Barney had a son, and his name was Bam Bam. He used to walk around with a caveman club, or maybe
I remember
with the
absolutely.
And he was strong as an ox. So my defensive line coach and the D lineman, they still call me Bam Bam. So that name kind of stuck throughout college.
Bob, a couple more for Richmond before we let him go.
Richmond, it's a better nickname than Pebbles, right? I mean, it could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been laughing if they'd have been calling me Pebbles. I might not have finished my career. They just called me Pebbles, so that's definitely not a good thing.
And when I think of the name Richmond Webb, to me it's synonymous with Miami, blocking for Marina, playing for Shula, Richmond, and that 2001, after 13 years in Miami, putting on a Bengals uniform. I know it's business, and I know you approached it the same way, but it had to feel a little strange.
Yeah, when you spend, the majority of your career, I was there for 2 years, you form the rivalries against, the Jets, the Patriots, the Buffalo Bills. Back then it was Indianapolis Colts, but, they've realigned the conferences now. But that's what you do. And then, going to Cincinnati, and then you got, the dog pound with Cleveland, the Steelers, Baltimore, and, Tennessee. It was different, but the thing I can say about they're just true diehard fans, and I knew they were fans because when I went to Cincinnati, I don't think they had went to the playoffs probably since 1991. That was like my second year in the league, but just the fan support and the way they love the Bengals and stuff like that, it's just, I mean, you really have an appreciation for that, and they've turned that, Marvin Lewis done a great job up there, and they turned that around, and I'm just happy for the fans up there because of the way they supported the teams when it wasn't good. So you should be rewarded once a team gets to turn around. So I'm just happy they gave me an opportunity to continue to play the game that I love, and they treated me with first-class respect up there. So I truly take my hat off and thank the Bengals very much because they treated me extremely well when I was up there.
And you went to 7 Pro Bowls, Richmond, a lot. And, besides your own teammates, you probably you met up with a lot of fellow linemen around down in Hawaii. And I just want to know, did you become close with any other guys and have remained close over the years?
Yeah, me and Cortez Kennedy, we talk maybe like once a week. Or once every couple of weeks. Real, I talk to him probably more than anybody else. But, if I bump into, some of the older guys at a function or whatever, it's always good to catch up and see how everybody's doing. But there's a couple of guys I think you always kind of just keep in contact and this and that. And me and Cortez, we was in the same draft class, and we met in Miami because he went to the University of Miami. And we've been real good friends ever since then.
Richmond, before we let you go, remind our listeners how they can stay track of all the things that you're doing and find you over social media as well.
Social media for Twitter, I'm at just Richmond Webb, Richmond Webb on Facebook, and name of my company is Environmental Machines and Services. We're in water, wastewater, and the website is environmentalmachines.com.
Richmond, thank you so much for continuing to be a part of the show. It's always a real pleasure for Bob and I to get to spend some time with you. We hope you come back again soon and share more of your thoughts and insights with us. You're absolutely one of our favorites.
Hey, thanks for having me on again. I hope I had more at my well, but I always have a great time with you guys. But y'all have a good night, and it was fun. I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you, Richmond.
Honor.
Yeah, always an honor. All the best to you and your family, my friend.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good night.
That is former Miami Dolphins and Cincinnati Bengals Pro Bowl left tackle Richmond Webb on with us, and just always such a classy individual, Bob. A great player. I don't understand how he's not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Doesn't make sense to me.
We always talk about it, you and I. 7 Pro Bowls and that kind of streak that he had and the type of player he was, Chris. Ask Marino if he deserves. He had Marino's back for a while. Just ask Dan Marino if he belongs. But hopefully someday he'll get his due. I know we'll do our best to keep plugging it because he's a great man and a great player.
Absolutely right. All right, we're going to get to our next guest, Rickey Foggie, on the other side of this station identification.
This is Reggie Kelly, former Cincinnati Bengals and Atlanta Falcons tight end, and you're listening to TNT, Thursday Night Tailgate. Brace yourself for the explosion.
Now back with us and making his 5th appearance on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Rickey Foggie. Let me remind you about Rickey's background. He's from Lawrence, South Carolina, which is in the northwestern part of the state, not that far from Greenville. He was recruited by Lou Holtz to play his college ball at the University of Minnesota, where he was a 4-year starter. Over those 4 seasons, he passed for 5,162 yards and rushed for another 2,150. He finished his college career as one of the most decorated and popular quarterbacks in University of Minnesota history. Played in the Canadian Football League from 1988 to 1997 with the BC Lions, Toronto Argonauts, Edmonton Eskimos, Memphis Mad Dogs, and Hamilton Tiger Cats. He also spent 4 seasons in the Arena League, and he has become, like Richmond before him, one of our favorite guests here on Thursday Night Tailgate, and we're very excited he is back with us again tonight. Hey, Rickey, Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari here. How have you been, my friend?
Good evening, Rickey.
Hey, guys. Good evening. I've been pretty good. It seems like every time I'm talking to you guys, it's like family members. So thanks for having me back again.
We appreciate that very much. Same here. So, Rickey, I wanted to kind of start by, getting an update from you. What's going on with you and your head coaching job? You had accepted a job at Egan High School up there in Minnesota. You left Red Wing High School, where you did a great job, leading that program back. But I read that you went to Egan, and then all of a sudden you're not. So just kind of curious on what the latest is.
We just had I got hired on, I think about a week and a half ago. I had a little Twitter issue that came up, and some parents wasn't happy about it. And so I kind of, at the end of the day, speaking with the school board, board members, the athletic director, superintendent, I decided to, resign over it. And then after, actually, I talked with some people that was close to me, and the next morning, I decided to rescind my resignation and I'm in the midst of fighting to get my job back at this time. So it's been, I'll say, an interesting week, to say the least. But, I'm still able to get on the golf course and do some football training, so life is good. Yeah,
and, to the point, social media point, I've seen a lot of support for you. And, folks wanting you to, I'm glad that you rescinded your resignation. They're supporting you, hoping you that this thing clears up because they want you to be the head football coach there at Egan High.
Yeah, and that's really is the part that
keeps me going in this fight. There is a majority of people that actually wants me to be their football coach and to be able to train their kids and young men, and that's the important part. There was a small group that didn't want me to be the head coach job, and that's unfortunate because if you look at my background, look at my resume, and you look what I've done since I've been in the state of Minnesota, there's no reason why I shouldn't be the head coach. But, people are people. We can't change everybody. We got to remain who we are. And life will go on. Hopefully I get the job back. If I don't, and then if there's just be another opening somewhere else in the near future I have to take on. But I'm fighting hard to get that job back because I think it's a great opportunity for me, and I just think it's a great opportunity for the community to have a guy like me to be able to train their kids and teach them life lessons on the football field and also off the football field.
Yeah, and, to that end, Ricky, I mean, you took over a Red Wing program that had won, I think, one game over its prior 2 seasons before you came on and took over that football team. And last year, 6-4. I mean, that's an amazing turnaround for a program that was struggling so badly. I'm curious, what did you do and what do you do to bring that quick of a turnaround to a group of young men that like I say, one win over 2 years, and all of a sudden now you turn that thing around and they're 6-4 last year?
Some of the magic I cannot discuss with you guys.
Is that right?
No, it's just, I've been fortunate. I've been coached by a guy named Lou Holtz. And so his whole deal was you got to outwork the next guy. You got to have some mental toughness about you. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to care about the guys that you're going to battle with on that football field. And so that's what my football program has always been about. You got to get the kids to trust you because if they don't, they're not going to play for you. You got to make them work hard. You got to hold them accountable. And then you got to make them responsible, and everybody's got to do their job. And so it's an old-school formula. I think that kids enjoy my coaching style because I've been around football so long. I have a lot of football knowledge that I'm able to give down to these kids. And then it's just a deal that I go out and I make them work. And then at the end of the day, with my football knowledge, to me it's simple. It's matchup. Football is matchup. And, we find the weakest links and then we attack them. And same thing about defense is that it's all about attacking. So we have fun. We let the kids be who they are. We have a couple of simple rules that they have to abide by. But at the end of the day, we make it a great high school experience for them.
Bob, questions for Ricky?
And Ricky, to me, you seem so devoted to that age of individual in high school and everything because you coached at a higher level, arena football. You had a lot of success at higher levels. What keeps you coming back to the high school level? I'm sure you've had other opportunities, Ricky.
I think overall, what it boils down to is my high school experience was probably the funnest time I had in football. My high school coach made a family atmosphere. I grew up in a small community where, everybody played football. We played all the sports, but everybody played. Everybody got along. Everybody liked each other. And so that was the funnest time that I've had in football was growing up with my buddies and going to high school and winning state high school football championships. And I feel that's my calling. I was fortunate enough to play football for a long time. I've had some great coaches in my career. But it always comes back to one thing is, treat people the way you want to be treated. Make sure you're doing the right thing on and off the football field. And enjoy it. You got to enjoy it. So that's what I think that I have as a calling to be a high school football coach. I have a lot of knowledge about the game, and so I give it to these kids, and I tell them, yeah, it is football, but football is a life learning sport because, it's tough. You can get hurt. You got to get back up. You got to get in shape. You got to work your butt off, and you got to love the game of football. And at the end of the day, you got to love your teammates, and that's what makes football at any level successful. You got to love your teammates because you can go out there. It's a sport that you can get hurt in, But if you go out and you give it 100% every time you go, and then go out and practice, you go out and play, you become a better person, I believe, because it builds mental toughness.
Yeah. And I've always said if Rickey Foggie saved a jersey from every pro team he played for, he could make his own museum, Chris, right? I mean, it's an amazing list of teams you played for. But the thing that really impressed me out of all your statistics in the Arena League, especially, Ricky, was the touchdown to interception ratios, better than 4-1. And, of course, we know the game, and it's probably what you teach kids, is about not making mistakes. And I'm sure that's a stat you probably have taken most pride in.
Yeah, it is, because, in college, I was a kind of a dual threat, more running and passing. The first 3 years of my career. So, and it is, and you teach the kids. The thing about high school, if you teach the kids, they get it, and they'll do whatever you ask them to do. And so, and that's one of those things is, I don't tell my kids you can't make mistakes, because we all do, be a human,
right.
But it's what you do in correcting the mistakes. You don't just go out and keep making the same mistakes over again. And so, and that's a life learning lesson, and the kids enjoy that.
Ricky, we got to speak with former Browns and Ravens wide receiver Michael Jackson a little earlier in the hour, and he, coming out of high school, he was a quarterback, but ultimately converted to wide receiver because when he got to Southern Miss, they had a kid named Brett Favre there playing quarterback. And when you were coming out, for the NFL drafts, I remember reading that teams wanted to convert you to either a running back or a wide receiver. Did you ever entertain that and give that any serious thought about switching positions?
Yeah, I entertained it for about 2 seconds. When I was a slim guy when I was in college. I was 6'2", probably $175 when I was in college, and I'm thinking, I've seen my guys run across the middle and get hit. I ain't going in there as a wide receiver. So, thank goodness I had other options as in the Canadian Football League that I could go and continue to play quarterback. Honestly, I understood the reason why they wanted me to switch, because I was pretty athletic and I was really fast, but I couldn't imagine myself being a receiver. It's just I was a quarterback at that time. So, and like I said, I had another opportunity to play in the Canadian Football League. Do I wish I had played in the NFL? Yeah, sure. We all wish we could have. But I had another option to go play in the Canadian League and continue to play quarterback, which was just fine with me.
We're talking to Rickey Foggie, former University of Minnesota and Canadian Football League star quarterback here on Thursday Night Tailgate. And Ricky, we had another great former Golden Gopher on the show a little bit earlier tonight, Rick Upchurch. And he played at Minnesota probably about 15 years, I think, before you were there. But just curious, do you ever get an opportunity to meet or talk to Rick Upchurch at all at any of the Minnesota events?
I have not. I've never met Rick. But from all the people that knows him, speaks really highly of him. I remember watching him play when he was in the NFL, and so he was a dynamic player. But personally, I haven't met, and I have the courtesy of meeting Rick Upchurch. I would like to one day.
And Ricky, when you look around the NFL, talk about playing quarterback in the NFL now, when you see guys like Brock Osweiler signing a $72 million deal, do you sometimes wish, boy, I wish I'd come along about 25 years later?
Yeah, I used to remind my mom of that all the time back in the day. She had me a little too early. But no, it's just it's a sign of the times. I wouldn't change one thing about my football player career. I think I came along and was pretty fortunate to be able to, play in Minnesota for 4 years, starting out with a guy like Lou Holtz. And but, yeah, I mean, it's just a sign of the times, and making way more money in the NFL these days, and rightfully so. You can't fault a guy for getting a huge contract like that. But, yeah, 20/20 hindsight, I told my mom, unfortunately she's passed now, but I told her, some years ago she could have waited at least 10 to 15 more years to have it.
Bob, a couple more for Ricky before we let him go?
Yeah, sure, Ricky. I mean, you had mentioned your time in Canada, that you enjoyed it. I think of Canada, I think of the bigger field up there. Was that better for your type of game, or is that kind of overrated? Is it just playing football?
Oh, no. It was perfect for me. You know, you're going to give me more space, and these guys got to chase me? Well, good luck.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, and also, you know, I was able to develop my passing game even more up in the Canadian Football League. So, no, that was perfect for me, man. More room, the better, because, you know, if you got one guy that's going to try to tackle me in space, I can guarantee it wasn't going to happen. And if it did, it was a mistake on my part.
Finally, Rick, I mean, we mentioned to a lot of our guests, you know, you played for a lot of years at a lot of teams, and, you know, the body does take a beating and everything, but it seems like you're in decent shape and you're active. And what are some of the other things? You said you get out on the golf course. What else do you do to kind of spend the time and stay in shape?
No, I'm a gym rat. I still usually work out twice a day during the week when I can. You know, I play basketball in the winter, in winter time, and, you know, once the weather is nice here, I try to play as much golf as possible. But just staying active. You know, you try to watch what you eat if you can. But I just think I stay in the gym a lot. I work out a lot, and that's the main way. And throughout my career, you know, I look back and I really didn't take a lot of, you know, punishing blows. And, you know, I think I give credit to my offensive coordinator, Larry Beckers. He was the one who came up with our offensive scheme, and we ran the option in college. So I didn't really take a lot of blows. Even over the amount of years I played, I took a quote from Chuck Foreman, who a former Vikings player. And I seen him a couple of years ago, and I asked Chuck, you know, I go, man, you look really good for your age. And Chuck goes, well, you can't hit what you can't see, baby.
There you go.
So,
stay elusive.
That was my deal.
Ricky, remind our listeners how they can follow you over social media.
I'm on Facebook as just Rickey Foggie. You can find me there on Facebook, and then on Twitter, it's rfoggie. You can follow me on my Twitter account. Those are the two social medias that I have.
Ricky, thank you so much for coming back and joining us again tonight on Thursday Night Tailgate. We always love having you as part of the show. We hope you'll continue to do so and come back, you know, soon and share more of your stories and insights with us. Always a great time when you're a part of the show.
Yeah, we do.
Hey, guys, thank you guys very much, and have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Same to you, Ricky. Happy holidays to you and your family, my friend.
Thank you.
Good night.
That is Rickey Foggie, former University of Minnesota and Canadian Football League star quarterback. Played for a lot of teams, to your point, Bob, about the number of jerseys. BC Lions, Toronto Argonauts, Edmonton Eskimos, Memphis Mad Dogs, and Hamilton Tiger Cats up there in Canada. And you want to talk about a guy that was a dynamic quarterback. Like I said, when you look at his stats, he threw for over 5,000 yards and ran for over 2,000. When he was at Minnesota. What a great talent, and always a good time when we get to have Ricky.
That's exactly right. He was Michael Vick before the Michael Vick.
That's right.
He really was, if you were following football, you know, in the 80s and 90s. So, it's a pleasure to speak with him. And wherever he ends up, Chris, I wish him good luck, but he is an incredible leader of men, and he should be a high school coach.
There you go. All right, when Bob and I come back, we'll turn on the Thursday Night Tailgate Spotlight on the Positive. Then we'll wrap up the show, and we'll do that on the other side of these words from our friends over at Coastal Orthopedics and the French Lick Resort.
Are you suffering from chronic pain in your shoulders, hips, knees, or wrists? Tired of living life with an old injury that just won't go away? If you answered yes to either of these questions, we can help. At Coastal Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dr. Candelora and his fine staff of medical professionals will get you back on the road to recovery. Their state-of-the-art facility and attention to detail will ensure you will be enjoying life again and feeling invincible in no time. Since 1991, Dr. Candelora and Coastal Orthopedics have been specializing in joint replacement, arthritis, and osteoporosis care, as well as pediatric and adult general orthopedics. Visit us on the web, www.bone-dr.com, or call our Newport Richey office just north of Tampa at 727-848-1417. Proud sponsors of Mike Ditka's The Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund.
Now's the time to plan that golf getaway you've been dreaming about at French Lick Resort. We have new Golf Academy packages for 2016, guaranteed to take your game to the next level. Try our one-day Quick Fix Academy for golf emergencies. For more in-depth learning, try the Game Changer, designed to make you a better player. Our staff professionals are ready to work with you at French Lick Resort. Did you know there's only one place in the country that you can play courses designed by two members of the World Golf Hall of Fame on the same property? The Pete Dye and Donald Ross courses at French Lick Resort make us an ultimate golf destination for 2016. Check out the Ultimate Golf Package, the Hall of Fame Package, and other great offerings at FrenchLick.com. Let 2016 be that year you finally take your dream golf getaway at French Lick Resort. Play the courses champions play.
Hey, welcome back. This is Todd Washington, two-time Super Bowl champ, offensive line coach for the Baltimore Ravens, and you are listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with my boys Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Go get them, guys.
We are back on Thursday Night Tailgate, and we are turning on our spotlight on the positive. Bob, who do you have for us this week?
Oh, Chris, I want to recognize Sam Barrington of the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if it was this week or next week. He's being honored by the Pop Warner organization just for his inspiration to young people. And you might say, why is that? Well, he does so much, Chris. He has been big time involved in Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and we know what a noble cause that is. And he's done that for a long time. And in addition to that, just a few of the other things, Chris, he's always been there when there's a cancer, anything to do with cancer, he'll be there. He has played in the Jordy Nelson softball game, and Coach McCarthy has a foundation also. They all benefit children's hospitals in Green Bay, and Sam he's had it tough this last year and a half. He missed the entire last season. I think he played one game, and the OTAs, I think he's doing stretching now, but he's getting ready to get back to his linebacking position. But again, this is a guy, Chris, who has been known also to, at the drop of a hat, pick up a Salvation Army bell and just start and working for that. So I mean, he's one of these guys. I can't stress enough what a good guy he is, and what he's done for especially low-income families and kids who need mentors. And so kudos to Sam Barrington. He gets the nod tonight.
There you go. Bob, I'm going to cross over sports this week to baseball, and thanks to my Stillers chat buddy, Mike Catula, for sharing this story with me on Facebook. But before the game last Wednesday between the Washington Nationals and New York Mets, 11-year-old Joseph LaRocca was in the outfield watching batting practice, hoping to catch a home run ball in batting practice, which he did. And his father told him to give the ball to another little boy, which Joseph did. So kudos to both of them for doing that. A short time later, Max Scherzer appears in the outfield and to play catch, with his teammates, warm up before the game. And the night before, Scherzer had tied the Major League record with 20 strikeouts in a game against Detroit. Joseph yells down to Scherzer, "Hey, Max, great game last night." And Scherzer says thanks, and then asks Joseph if he wants to play catch, and he tosses a baseball up into the stands to Joseph, and they proceed to play catch for several minutes. Joseph's dad, Joe, caught the whole thing on video, and Joe later told local New York News that they are big Met fans, but right now they're Washington Nationals fans, and he later tweeted out to Scherzer, "Thank you for having a catch with my son. Lifetime memory. This longtime Mets fan is now a lifetime Max fan." That is, something that, not only will the LaRocca family, remember forever, but if you watch the video, and you'll join me in this, you'll become a Max Scherzer fan forever as well. Great video. What a wonderful thing that Max Scherzer did there, and it took just a couple of minutes playing catch with a young man up in the stands for a few minutes. What a wonderful thing he did. And you can find that video if you want to check it out. It's on our Thursday Night Tailgate Facebook page. It's, like I say, if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely fantastic. You can find it everywhere. It kind of went out way over social media. You'll find it on Twitter, a number of different places. But easily go to our Thursday Night Tailgate Facebook page. You'll be able to see it right there. So, Bob, great stuff from Max Scherzer. Really touching when you see the video.
That is great, Chris. When you shared the story, it was almost tear-jerking, and it just goes to show you it does not take much to just have an effect on someone's life. As you said, this is something that will never be forgotten, and it reminds us also that how much power these athletes do have. Some of them try to run from it, some of them embrace it, and kudos to Scherzer, man. It's something I won't forget.
Yeah, no, and it is great stuff. And to your point, kudos to Max Scherzer for making this young man's day. And for anybody, think about how many people he has touched now. I mean, he just didn't touch Joseph LaRocca, right? I mean, everyone who's seen the video, the people that were around him watching it happen, right? I mean, it's just such a simple thing. Have a catch, 5 minutes with a kid that is going to make that kid's day. I like to say a lot of times, and Bob, you're very inspirational too on Facebook. We like to say if you have an opportunity to make somebody's day, take it. Well, Max Scherzer certainly took it, and kudos to as well to Sam Barrington for what he's doing. And these are a couple of great guys that did some great things. But like we say every week here on Thursday Night Tailgate, when we put the spotlight on the positive, two guys every week having a wonderful impact on the communities that they are a part of, or somebody's life that they just happen to come in contact with, and as Max Scherzer did here. But kudos to those guys for making a positive impact and being on this week's Thursday Night Tailgate Spotlight on the Positive.
Yeah, we love doing it.
All right, Bob, it is time for us to put a bow on this episode. We want to thank again Tony Collins, Michael Jackson, Rick Upchurch, Richmond Webb, and Rickey Foggie for being a part of the show tonight, making it so much fun for us to be a part of. We thank those guys for doing that. And, Bob, as I always say, the best part of the night is spending time with you, my friend.
Same here, Chris. That was quite the lineup tonight. A lot of great old friends, and it makes it easy. And we always want them back, and they always come back. So either we're doing something right, or they're just great people. So hopefully it's a combination of both.
Right. All right, next week, who do we have scheduled to join us? Speaking of great friends coming back, Prairie View A&M head coach Willie Simmons is going to be back with us. Former Bucs kick returner Vernon Turner will also be here. He's got some exciting news about his life story. He's told it to us a couple of times on this show. You want to talk about a tearjerker? You hear Vernon Turner's story. If you haven't heard it, you haven't heard Vernon, talk about it live here on the show, please go back through our archives and take a listen to Vernon tell the story there. And he's also got a book you can read to hear more about it as well. The book is called The Next Level: A Game I Had to Play. You can find it out on Amazon.com. So please check it out. One of two places. It's an amazing story that he lived through, and now hopefully we'll get to be seeing it before too long out there on the big screen. Also joining us next week, former Vikings Pro Bowl defensive tackle Keith Millard has become a great friend of the show here this year. We've really enjoyed getting to know Keith, and looking forward to having him back on the show next week. Plus, Tony Collins, he'll be back with us in his regular time slot as well. So it's going to be a really great show. I'm already excited for it. We hope you'll come back and be a part of it with us. How can you stay up to date with what's going on with us over social media? Well, Thursday Night Tailgate, we've got a page out there on Facebook, so please check it out there. We've got lots of great information on the show there, a lot of archive episodes if you scroll through it there, links to different things. So please give us a like. That's important to us. You can find Bob and I both on Facebook as well, Chris-Mascaro, Bob-Lazzari. On Twitter, you can find us. I am at CT-Mascaro. Bob is at Bob_Lazzari, and the show is at TNT Podcast. So please check us out. Give us a follow, and let us know your thoughts about the show. We'd appreciate it very much. And you can stay up to date with who some of our future guests are going to be, and you can stream or download any of our archive episodes by going to our website, ThursdayNightTailgate.com. Bob, take us home, my friend.
Thank you, Chris, and again, a happy Memorial Day to all. And, of course, thanks also to our announcer, Joe Lajanusa, for the great job he does with our weekly intro and ads, and to James Brocato and all the guys from Painted Faces for our upcoming outro music. On behalf of myself and Chris Mascaro, we thank everyone tonight for listening. We appreciate you the most. Until next week, good night, Kevin. We miss you.